So Docker has only 3 simple states, okay, or 2 simple states. Rest of it are creation and deletion. Okay, so first we will have image, and I'm quite sure that we know about image. Docker pull is what we will do for this image. Yes, and once the image is there, from that image you can create a container which will be in 2 states, which is running or started, stopped or exited. Only these are the only 2 states. There is no other states like pause, restart, nothing. A Docker can be in a running state or in a exited state, or started state or in a stopped state. Okay, the other thing, once you have finished the usage of the Docker, is you can remove container. That's it. These are the 4 control commands. First thing is you have an image, you want to create a container. Okay, that is done by run. Okay, so image to containers, this is achieved by a command which is called as run. Okay, when you put the run, Docker should be in a running state. And now if the container is running and you want to stop the container, the command which you would be using is called as stop. Okay, and if the container is stopped and you want to start it, then the command is start. Very common or simple commands. Yeah, if you want to remove the container, we have, I think we have looked into the command as rm. Fine. 4 commands which basically control creation and deletion and executions of Docker are Docker run, Docker start, Docker stop, and Docker rm. Okay, fine. Now what will define that the container is running? Okay, fine. So generally you will have 2 kinds of applications which are like services which run in the background, right? Rest of the things are executable. Okay, something like basically a command prompt, you double click it and it would start. Okay, so executable will be running till process is alive. Do you agree to that? I have executed notepad. Okay, I have gone to the task manager, I will right click and I'll kill it, so my notepad is gone. Okay, so whenever a running process is stopped, Docker container will be killed. Whenever a running process is stopped, the Docker container will be killed. So for example, if I have said that I want to run this echo hello world, what would happen? What would happen with respect to this command? Echo is, for the people who don't know about echo, it is just a simple print command. Print command will print whatever you have told and then it would return. Done. So execution is finished. So whenever you write execution as echo as a main command in Docker, okay, it will just print the stuff and it would kill the container. That's exactly what was happening with Docker run hello world. If you remember yesterday, one of the student has also asked me a question, why was hello world killed but Apache was running? The reason is because of this. Okay, Apache is a continuous process, it runs in the background, it is configured to run in background. But in hello world, the basic main process that Docker is tagged to is echo. And if you know about the behavior of echo, how it would work, it would basically print the stuff. Once it is print, it would come out. Okay, are we good? Yes, so we'll try all of this, don't worry about it. So basically the commands which we use are very, very important. So during the startup of the Docker, whenever the Docker is, you say Docker run, Okay, every image will have some startup command. Okay, the lifetime of the Docker depends on what command you have passed. If my starting command I have given something like echo hello world, it will just print hello world and it will kill itself. Okay, if I have configured in the start command so that it is a process which waits for something to happen and it is a continuous process, then it would work. That's the whole and a simple point around it. Are we good? So Docker containers lifetime depends on the starting command which you have triggered to it. Okay, fine. Now whenever a command, for example, if I have done this ping google.com, if you have done it in Windows, it will ping for 4 times and it would come out. But if you do it in Linux, it will try to continuously ping it. So if this is my startup command, my container will run till the ping process is killed itself. Okay, now if you remove network connection, what will happen to ping of a Linux command? It will try for 4 or 5 times, then it would come out saying that there is some packet loss, I am unable to do it. Okay, so in those cases it would come out. So Docker ఎంత time run అవుతుంది, how much time does the Docker run when you execute a Docker run command depends on what? A starting command which you have passed. Fine. So every container has some starting command. Okay, so we will try to look into those aspects today. Okay, what is the starting command? Okay, and what makes these containers executable, and if they are executing continuously, how can I run it? There are two modes of running Docker. Okay, one is called as foreground, the other one is called as background. What do I mean by that? Okay, and what is the best or ideal way to run this containers? Are we good? Yes. So these are the Docker states, and when you execute the Docker, you can run in two modes, which is foreground and background. Yeah, fine. So let me go to okay. So while it is terminating, let us launch one more instance. Yeah, Ubuntu. I can do it on Windows, but I want it to be in a consistent state, so that's why I'm using Linux. Okay, you can use T2 micro. Even I will do that today. This is a Docker Trails machine. Let me go ahead and select a security group where everything is open. All the ports of it are open. Okay. So let me go ahead and create a new key pair, which I'm going to call it as Docker. One minute, guys. So sort by name. So let me download the key pair again. Oh man, everything I have double, is it? So I have to change my naming conventions then. At least this should not be there. Okay, fine. That is just a file name, so don't worry about it. The same content is being downloaded onto different files. Okay. Let us wait till this machine is up. And if you get into the installation of Docker install, so this is what I'm going to use. I think I've used it already in the class. Okay. The complete line by line installation I'll be doing in next. I'll be doing it tomorrow, so that we have more time over Saturdays, right? So okay, let us connect to it. Git bash. Yes. And next, go to your script file. Okay. Okay, we have this. So sh. So it would do its job. It would install the Docker container, and after that I have to do only one thing, because to give permission to my user to Docker, I have to run one. I have to add my user to the Docker group. That's it. Once this is finished. Okay. Fine. Okay. So he says that add this because you have executed as a user. So your username is Ubuntu. Add this. The moment you add this, Docker should be running for this user. Okay. And once you do this, it would not be applied immediately. So please log out once and log in again. Now your user has full permissions on it. So Docker info. So am I seeing something? So if you do Docker info without doing that command, then what it would try to tell is, it would try to tell that you don't have a privileges on socket. Some Docker socket is what it would try to tell. Just exit and come out of it. Okay. Now let me pull the image hello world. Very simple image. So Docker pull hello world. What does this come? What does this do? Pulls the image from. I have not configured any Docker registry, right? So where it would download from? Docker Hub, and it would paste it in my local image store. Okay. Now how can I check whether it is in my local image store or not? Docker images. So am I seeing something? Yes. Now I want to run this. So I would do Docker run. Oh, sorry. So run is a process of starting a container from the image. Hello. Okay. Now Docker PS is a process shown. What could be the reason? The basic way this image is configured, or this container is configured to run, is to print some statements and get out. So in the start they have used echo statement, and echo statement will be lived only till it prints the command. The moment it finishes the command, Docker container is killed. Okay. Now what I would do is I would change that startup command. I would change that startup command. Okay. So Docker run. Okay. Hello world. Okay. And let me try to use ping. Google.com. Okay. It says that I could not find something which is called as ping. Okay. Let me do one thing. Let me do something like ls, or let me try to say pwd. What is pwd? So my startup command is what? What is my startup command now? Present working directory. So anything which you write after the image's name, okay, can overwrite something. In this container, it is overwriting the startup command. Okay, we would learn about two things. It can overwrite if you look at Docker, whenever you pass any arguments, it can override two things. One is startup command or startup arguments. In which case, what applies? For that, we have to just wait to know how do I write the Docker images. But the whole point is, After the image name, if you are passing anything, it would be supplied to your container while starting. So what it says, pwd executable is not found, but is it trying to execute? Yes. So I would just say echo qt. What is it trying to tell? Is it trying to execute it or not? Yeah. Now what I would do is I would get into this container. I have running this container, but I have my serious doubts about this container. I want to get inside this container. Okay. To get inside the container, what is the stuff which is required? If you want to get inside the Linux machine, what is the prompt which you expect? Bash prompt. Yeah. So shall me try that? So docker run. But remember, whenever you want to get into terminal, you have to give -it, because you are trying to tell that I want to be interactive. Yeah. Same. Hello world. And then you would be telling about the path of your. So what is happening? It is not allowing me even into that. So let me do it. So there is no bin bash also in docker hello world. So what I'll do is I'll pull one more image. Docker pull. What is the image which would pull? Ubuntu. Yeah. And once this is pulled, I will also I will also download the Apache or HTTPD container. So Docker pull HTTPD. These are all new, not new images. We have used it in some point, but on that day we have just used it to explore that the Docker does this. But today we are trying to get one level deeper into it. Yeah. Now let us go to the Docker Hub. Explore HTTPD and see what is the start command. Okay. He has just basically told that this is what he wants to run, but it's okay, absolutely okay. So I'll docker run HTTP. Now what is happening? Let me see if the Docker has been started. Okay. So is the Docker working? How do I know that? So to do this, probably I might need to log in into the same machine from a different terminal as a different user. And let us examine what are the containers that are running. So I'm logging into the same machine with a different container just to examine. In this, I will not be running any Dockers, but the only thing which I'll be doing over here is Docker. Are you seeing something is running? Yes. But if you see, it tries to tell that it is a. So now whenever it is running, okay, whenever a container is running, it displays the output to your terminal. It displays the output to your terminal, and now you can't work on this terminal because it is the container has taken this space. This way of working is called as foreground mode, or you can call it as also as an attached mode. Okay, but if you start your containers like this where it displays the output like this, it might not be, you might not be able to work. Do you agree to that? Yes. So what I do is I'd kill the container. To kill this container, just you need to get out of this terminal, and to get out of this terminal you will be using Control C. Okay, now let me do Docker PS. You should not see this container because you have killed it. Whenever you have done Control C, you have stopped the execution of HTTPD. Now let me go ahead and run this Docker run -d HTTP. Now is it running in the foreground? No. So what is happening right now is -d is a detached state. -d forces your container to run in the background. Okay, and the default state of container is to run in the foreground. And the default state of the container is to run in the foreground. But if you want to make it as detached, you can do -t. Okay. Now let me do docker ps. Is this container running? Yes. So now I want to find out what is the present working directory in that. What is the present working directory in that? Okay. So docker exec execute. Where I have to execute? The container ID. Okay. What is that you want to execute? I want to execute pwt. Oh, I've copied status, is it? Fine. Is it giving something? Yeah. So if you want to execute simple commands, there is no need for you to get into container. You can just say docker exec, give the container name, and after that you pass the command whatever you want to run. So for example, I want to see what are the processes that are running on this machine. So ps, these are all the processes which are running on my machine with different usernames. Okay, I've given the list of all the usernames. So am I able to execute commands in the running container from outside? Yes. And I'm not stopping I'm not interrupting the usage also. Similarly, if I want to get inside that container on a starting container, on a started container, okay, again it's a terminal. So what you have to do is whenever you are working on terminal, please try to give this -it. -it is interactive terminal, and then tell where your terminal is. My terminal is at the bin slash, oh sorry, bash. So am I inside the Apache container or HTTPD container? Yes. Now if you do control C here, now if you want to exit and you type exit, or you do control C, the container will be killed. Yes. So to stop your container from being killed, you have to use a command which is or a key combination which is control PQ plus control first P and then Q. Okay. If you do control C, what happens? Your HTTP container will be killed because you have stopped execution. So control PQ. It would say that I have read the escape sequence. I am safely coming out. But if you type exit, if you type control C, that might lead to stopping of your container. So whenever you are working on executing containers, docker exec is the right thing. Okay, get into the container, do whatever you want. Okay, explore different things. Okay, and once you have finished your work, don't do control C, don't do exit. Please try to do control PQ. Just make a note of this commands. Control PQ. The rest of the things like docker exec, docker run, there is a hell lot of documentation already there. But control PQ is written in very small statements in exec, so you might not find it. Are we good? Now what is the docker state? Let us see. Docker ps. What is the status? At the last you would have up 3 minutes. This is your status. Okay. Now I want to stop this container. Let me take the container ID or container name. If you see, I have not given the container name, so Docker has given some name to it. So Docker stop, copy paste error, don't worry about it. So Docker stop. Now let me do Docker. Nothing is seen now. So from the stopped container, can I start it? Yes. So Docker start, and you have to use the same container ID again. Now let me do Docker running. Yes. So Docker start, Docker stop, and Docker run. Docker run is from image to container. Once you have a container which is in running state, you can change the state by start and stop commands. Okay. You have finished the work on this Docker. You want to remove this container. So Docker rm. Okay. And now let me give the container ID. Okay. It would tell that you can't do that. because the container is running. So what by default what Docker expects is whenever you are removing your container, you have stopped it. Okay, because you might be executing these commands by mistake. So if you know that you are not executing by mistake, you can say minus. So by force delete it. I know that it is running container, but I still want to delete it. Okay. So now if I do docker ps minus a, see how many executions we have. So every container which we done pwd, ps, everything had led into one container. Okay. Now I want to remove all of them. I want to remove all of them. So to remove containers, I need container IDs. So docker ps minus a has given me that list. Now I'm just adding minus q to it. So what is it giving? List of container IDs. If I pass this to the docker rm command, all of the containers will be removed, right? So what I would do is docker rm. Since it is an execution of a command, I'm using a dollar, and I'm executing the same command docker ps minus a minus. Now if I do docker ps minus a, then even my history is gone. See, if you have removed the container from docker ps, history is gone. So don't expect history after you remove the container. Okay, but till your container is alive, you would have everything. You would have everything. So shall we start the httpd again? Yes. So just this is a useful command because whenever we play or whenever this is not useful really in your office systems, but while you are learning docker, you might create lot of containers and you might want to delete them. So rather than copying the container IDs one after the other, this is a useful command for our lab kind of works, right? So docker run minus it. I want to be interactive, and I'm trying that Ubuntu. And what is it I want to run? Bin slash. So now what would have happened? A Ubuntu container is started, or a Ubuntu container is created, and it is put in running state. Okay. Now I am inside the Ubuntu container, so probably I would be executing some of the commands over here. Okay. Something like apt get update or anything, any work which you do, you can do inside this container. Okay. Now let me get into the other terminal if it is active till now. Yeah, wonderful. Now let me go ahead and type docker. Yes, I should be seeing only Ubuntu container running over here. Yes. Okay. So are the states clear? There are only 4 states, out of which one is about creating, one is about deleting, but rest of the 2 states is started, stopped. So Docker has theoretically Docker has only 2 states, started and stopped. That's it. Okay. Even your created will end up into started. So that's why I'm calling Docker has only 2 states. And to control the states, we have looked into the commands, right? Docker run to create a container, docker rm to remove the container, start to start the container when it is stopped, and stop to stop the container when it is started. Simple. Yes. So there are many command line options after that. Okay. And now whenever we are running in a container, there are 2 modes. What are they? Foreground and background. So foreground, what it will do? It will use your terminal. It will use your terminal. So now let me quickly, what I would do is, okay, I would come out of this container. If I do control C, what happens? It will kill itself. If I try to do control PQ, and if I do docker ps, my Ubuntu is still running. But if you would have done control C over there, your Ubuntu container would have been in stopped state because you have came out of terminal and there is nothing that is running. So our start, what is our start command? Bin slash bash. So as long as that bash prompt is running, your container is alive. Once that bash prompt is exited, your container is dead because bash is my start command. So container's lifetime internally is managed by the command which you use to start the container. Do you all agree to that now? Yes. Okay. Fine. Now let us explore the other activities in this container. Okay. After connecting Ubuntu, yeah, probably that might be a default user. That might be how the image has been designed. Yeah. Can I log in as other base VM user over here? It will not know who you are. Okay. Have I given username and password to get into it? So if I have done that, then your question makes sense. But what is it I have done? Docker, exec, it bin/bash. Once you get into that, then probably create a user and then you use su. But from my external machine to the internal machine, I have just said that please start this container and take me to the bash prompt. And it will take me to the bash prompt with the default user. That's how it is. Okay, fine. Each container defaultly goes into bin/bash. Not really, you can change it, but most of the containers do. Okay, you can change that, but most of the containers do start with bin/bash. Okay, are there any advantages of running in background or foreground? See, in your actual environments, you don't want your terminals to be looking dirty, so you would obviously have them running in the background. While learning, we will explore both the modes, but all of your production servers will never be in a foreground mode. They would always be in the background mode, right? Okay, we made HTTP to run in the background, but when checked, Docker PS is not displayed it. Oh, is it? So let me do it again. So Docker run HTTPD. This is foreground. Yes. Now I do Control C and sorry, I do Docker PS now. It will not be shown because the container is killed already. And the thing which is seeing is Ubuntu, not HTTPD. మనకు అక్కడ కనబడుతున్న container Ubuntu. Now if I do this Docker run -d HTTPD, my terminal will not be occupied. So Docker PS, I should be seeing two entries, one for Ubuntu and one for, is that happening? Yes. So running the containers by default, I would expect that most of you try in a background mode. Okay, fine. Background is -d, detached is what Docker officially calls it. Okay, so let me take one container over here. Okay, pardon me, that is the name of it. But what is happening? Foreground అంటే పేరు కాదు సార్. మీ టెర్మినల్లో అది చేసే పనులు కనబడుతున్నాయా లేదా? నేను బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ అని పెట్టుకుంటాను కంటైనర్, foreground రన్ చేస్తాను. సో is the name making sense or is the behavior making sense? Right, he could have called that as foreground. That's the name probably which you have given, but the behavior is important, not the name. It would create a container which is called as background, but it runs in, so it's just a name. So don't get wrong with names. Yeah, okay. So now let me basically go ahead and search for one container which is called as Jenkins. So there is a Jenkins official container. This is what I want to take. Okay, so I would directly run Docker run Jenkins. Okay, so run will do, if the image is not found, pull plus run. So it is trying to do the pull operation now. Once the pull is finished, it will start running it. Is it running in the foreground or a background mode now? Foreground. How are you able to tell? Yeah, that is the first thing. Next thing is I've not passed -d. If I want to run in a background, I would explicitly pass -d. So now if you see, to make this Jenkins work, I need this password. I need to copy this. Okay. So if it is in the foreground mode, it's wonderful because I can copy this password and paste it in the website. Now let me stop this. Okay. Now if I basically do docker run -d Jenkins. Okay. Now it happens in the background. But when I am trying to use this application, I might need that password. So how can I get that? How can I get that? So what we will do is, let us just do docker ps. So there might be certain cases where your application is running in the background, but you might need some information from the foreground. In the case of Jenkins, you need that password to continue the installation. Okay. So what is the ID of your Jenkins container ID? Copy this and just say docker logs. Are you seeing this? Logs will show whatever has been is supposed to display on the terminal. So there is not there for this, there is no need for you to make your background container as foreground. Start your container in the background, execute this logs command. I still have my password over here. Copy this password and continue your installation. Are we good? So even if your container is running in the background, you can still see what is happening on the terminal by executing a command called as docker logs. Okay. ఎందుకంటే కొన్నిసార్లు ఇలాంటి సిచ్యుయేషన్స్ లోకి వస్తాం. While starting your container, you might need to copy or paste something, or you might need to go through the logs which it is showing in the container. So for example, it shows all the logs in the foreground, and you have said that run it in the background by giving -d, and the container has stopped for some reason. It should not stop, but it has stopped due to some reason. And we know that in the terminal it would have been shown the error message why it has stopped it. Probably insufficient memory or whatever it is. But you want to quantify that by looking at the error messages. So use docker logs. Docker logs and container ID or container name will show you all the logs that are being displayed. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So I want to remove all the containers which are either running or stopped. So what can I do? Docker rm, and I'll be doing -f because I want to deal with also running containers. Okay. I want to get the list of all. So docker ps -a. Okay. Now I do docker ps -a empty. Okay. But I still have images. That's fine. I want images. Okay. Good. Yes. These are the very simple and basic commands of docker. Okay. Docker run, docker start, docker docker rm, and docker stop. Okay. And also in the meantime, we have looked into docker pull. What is a docker pull? Basically downloading the image from your registered registry. In our case, we have not registered to anything. That's why it is docker hub. Okay. Tomorrow in your company, it might be going to your server itself. Okay. Fine. Now till here, do we have any questions on this? Where are these images stored? In your host machine. When you ask me about locations, please have some patience. We will be looking at in some time, because there is one more important command which I want to discuss, which is called as inspect. So how do you inspect these containers? So while doing that, I'll try to show you. Okay. So if this image is not available by local, then by default it will route to, yeah, not by, yeah, if you have not configured any external registry, it would go to docker hub. Okay. But there is something called as registry configuration. If you do that registry configuration, it might not go to docker hub. It might go to the registry which you have configured. So by default, it will go to a registry. And if you have not said anything about a registry, it will go to docker hub. Is my statement clear? By default, if it is not found in local, it will go and search some other place. And that some other place, I am calling it as a registry. Okay. And the default registry is docker hub. But you can change it. Tomorrow, if you change it to something else, it will not go to docker hub, it will go to that. Yeah. In which scenarios we use $? So when $ is basically a Linux command, when you want a command to be executed and the result of it to be passed to the other Linux command, we use $. That's it. So it has nothing to do with Docker. It is basic Linux kind of a syntax. How to get the latest if already old one on local? I'll be speaking. That is the next thing which I want to speak. Versions of it. Okay, fine. What is the command which I would run after exec? Okay, if I want to create the container and then get into it, I would be doing run it bin bash. If the container is running and I want to get into it, docker exec, because docker exec execute this command on the running container. That's the whole point. Okay, so now if you look into this or any stuff, okay, let me not get into, yeah, it's okay. There is something called as tags. These are all the different versions of the images which you have. These are all different versions of the images which you have. So for example, I want this Jenkins, but I want Jenkins with this particular version of the image. So image will have not only name, but it will also have versions. But did we said about any version till now? We were just trying to tell that Docker run Jenkins, Docker run Ubuntu, but we have never said about any version, because the Jenkins work in this way. If you tell version, okay, explicitly telling version, if you are explicit about it, it would download that version. Okay, so for example, I say that I want Jenkins with 1.6, it would download that. If you have not said anything, okay, it would download a version, download a label, or download a image which has a version or which has a tag to it which is called as latest. So whenever you are down saying that docker pull Jenkins, you are actually pulling Jenkins with version which is called as latest, which is tagged as latest. Okay, we have done Ubuntu. So what is that we were trying to do? Ubuntu with a latest tag. So whenever you don't tell about a version, it would go to the latest, and whenever you are explicit about that version, it would get that stuff. So what I would try to do right now is, let me go to the Docker images, and I would try to pull every other image with a different version. So now if you see, tag is what? What is the tag which you are seeing in this statement? I'll pull some other version. So Docker pull Jenkins colon, what is the version which we have seen? 1.642 dot. It will not say that it has found. It will try to recreate it. Okay, or it will try to download it. What is the? అది మీరే చెప్పాలి క్లాస్ అయ్యాక. Have I ever told that it is an alternative to shell? Can Vagrant be used in production? That's where it comes in. Vagrant you cannot use in production. It is a local PC setup. Okay, fine. Is Vagrant lightweight? Is virtual machine lightweight? No. Okay, that's where Vagrant this comes into play. So it is a lightweight kind of a very simple kernel kind of a virtual machine. నిన్న క్లాస్కి వచ్చారా? అది సీరియల్ సార్, ఇది షార్ట్ సినిమా కాదు. రోజు వస్తేనే కథ అర్థం అవుద్ది అత్త కోడళ్ళు ఎందుకు కొట్టుకుంటున్నారని. ఓకే, ప్లీజ్ హ్యావ్ ఎ లుక్. అంటే నిన్న మనం మాట్లాడుకున్న కథ అంతా అదే. వై వి యూజ్ దిస్ అండ్ హౌ ఇస్ దిస్ హ్యాపెనింగ్ అని. సో ప్లీజ్ హ్యావ్ ఎ లుక్ ఎట్ దట్. ఓకే, ఓకే. సో Docker images. So are you seeing anything different in Jenkins now? We are seeing two entries in Jenkins. One entry is with latest, the other entry is with, yeah. So now let me ask you one straightforward question. I have a virtual machine. Okay, in that can I install Jenkins 2 and Jenkins 6 in the same machine? Jenkins 1.6? You have to go a hell lot of pain for that, right? Now let us see what happens. I can simply say Docker run Jenkins, which means that I am trying to run latest version of Jenkins. So I will just give -d because I don't want to basically. So similarly, I'll give docker run -d Jenkins colon 1.642.4. Yeah. So I do docker ps. Am I able to run two Jenkins which are of completely different versions in the same physical machine? Okay. And the best part is I don't even have Java installed in this machine. And for the people who know about Jenkins, Jenkins has, for the Jenkins to work, you need to have Java to be installed. And Java is not installed in your virtual machine. It is installed in containers user space. So whatever is happening in a container user space, you are not impacted. So you can have very clean setups. So for example, if you want to install anything, for example, if I want two versions of Apache because I want to explore something. So Apache 3 and Apache 2, let us assume Apache 3 is not out yet, but Apache 3 comes into play and you want to explore features. Create the containers of both of them and run in the same machine, okay, and try to explore your use cases. Simple. So now I am able to run two different versions of the same software in the same machine without having any impact. That's the best part. And this is not possible in other worlds because it is difficult. You have to, it would try to tell many things. So let us assume Jenkins 1.6 uses Java 7 and Jenkins 2 uses Java 8. No problem, because you are not doing anything on your local machine. It is actually happening in the user space, the isolated user space. So you have zero impact. So you can work with any kind of applications without installing any software. The only software which you would install is Docker. Make sense? Yeah. So many companies are using Docker to simulate production environments. To simulate production environments. And it is easy for them to do it in same machine. Okay, because simulating the production environment so that the testers can reproduce it, that is possible in Docker. Fine, are we good? Yeah. Now I'll address one last concern about it. I'm running the application but I'm not accessing it. If you have seen till now, I'm not accessing it because till now the containers which I am running uses some ports. So for example, if I use HTTPD uses a port called as 80. Jenkins uses a port called as 8080. Okay, so how can I access that application? So this is basically done by a concept called as port forwarding. So shall I kill all of this? Yes. And I'll not be running Jenkins because Jenkins will not run on T2 micro. The container 512 MB is not enough for Jenkins. I'll be running HTTPD, but I'll be running two HTTPDs and I'll try to access it. Is it okay? Yes. So Docker RM Docker ps -q. Let me give -a also if there is anything left. -a, but I have to give -f also because there are some running containers. Okay, so now to do the port forwarding, you would be using something like this: docker run -p. -p is port forwarding, and then you would be telling first your machine's port. So I want to say that my machine's 8080 port is mapped to 80 port of the containers user space. Are you getting the whole point? The first entry is your system's port, and the second entry is containers port. And HTTPD runs on port 80. And now in our application, in my system, I'm trying to tell that whatever is running on that 80, if you want to access that, use 8080. Okay. So if you don't want 8080, I can give 8081 also. It's okay. Fine. Any number. And then tell what is the container which you want to run. I want to run HTTPD. And other thing is I want to run HTTPD in detached mode. Okay. So I'll launch one more container now with HTTPD. Now I'm trying to tell that I have two containers. To access these two containers, I have to use my machine's sorry, my machine's IP address using 8081 for one container and 8082 for the other. So now let us see what the PS whether they are running or not. They are running. Okay. Now let me take the IP address of my container. This is my IP address of the container. Okay. So http://80. Okay. And colon 8080. So am I having two Apaches running in the same physical machine? Yes. So we are not having conflicts because of the user space concept which we have discussed yesterday. Otherwise, if you try to do it on a same user space, you will have the same problems. Okay. But now we are running two containers, which means that we have two different user spaces. So everything is different. File system is different. Process is different. Everything is different. So that's why it is working. Okay. So there is no need for you to take different machines for doing different things. Now in the same machine, you can do multiple things. That's the whole aspect. Fine. Sounds interesting? Yes. Did you understood this port mapping concept? -p, first give your physical machines port and then containers port. Similarly, if I want to run Jenkins, so I will be telling that docker run -p 80. What is 80 now? My machine's port and 8080. Then I would say Jenkins. Okay, I want to run it in detached mode. So if I want to access Jenkins, what is that I have to give? HTTP colon your Docker machine's address colon 80. And if you have used HTTP, there is no need for you to give 80 because HTTP's default port is 80. Okay. So Docker PS. How many I have? I have 3 containers running. So let me basically it would take a lot of time. Docker is a beast. It requires a lot of memory. Yeah. But are you seeing something happening? Yes. It might not work efficiently, by the way. I can guarantee you that. 512 MB is not enough for Docker. Okay. And if you see that it needs something from the logs. So what is that I would do? Docker PS. And I need a container ID, right? First. So let me copy this container ID and then say Docker logs, paste it, and this is the password which it is asking about. Copy this, paste it over here, click on. Okay, simple installations. My physical machine is clean. I have not installed Jenkins, Java, I have not installed Python, I have not installed any different versions of the software. The only one thing which I'm playing with is Docker. Good? Yes. So I think I'll not continue this. I don't want to show this installation. Fine. You can continue this installation for the people who know Jenkins, and for the people who don't know Jenkins, wait for the opportunity. Okay. So fine. Is all ports open at container level by default? No. No. If you run Docker application like Jenkins, even in the earlier case, it might have shown in your description saying that it would speak about some ports. Okay. We have not gone there yet. Okay. So how will containers expose the ports? That's something which you would be learning. That all of that comes into play while you are creating the image. Okay. While using the image, you have to follow documentation. Okay. While using the image, you have to follow the documentation. Yes. So, and one thing to remember is while you are doing this in AWS, please ensure all of your ports are open. కొన్నిసార్లు ఏమవుతుందంటే 8081 అని ఓపెన్ చేస్తారు, అక్కడ రన్ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. బికాస్ ఇన్ AWS you might have a security group which does not allow 8081. Okay, it might stop it. And if you are doing it from offices, some of the offices proxies stop any port apart from 80 and 443 and 22. So if you try to give any other port, it would try to fail. So try to do it in a network where you don't have much of a firewall setup. Okay, fine. So there is no need to switch the version now. You can play with both the versions. The whole point is there is no need for you to switch any versions. You can just play with both the versions. So for example, if I want older version, just use that container. If I want a newer version, use a newer version container which has the latest label. So you can work on multiple softwares which basically conflict if you try to do it on a physical machine, but on a container they will not even complain. Yeah, good. So Tomorrow, what we would do is we would continue this journey and we will be looking into Docker's installation. What I would try to do is, let me try to quickly show you one setup, but there are different other setups also. So I'd be doing it in one operating system, and I want you to continue different kinds of installations on different kinds of machines. That's your choice. And tomorrow, what we would be doing is we would be looking into the other command lines. I have just shown you very, very basic commands. These commands have some additional options also. What are they? Okay, and we would be looking into the other aspects of Docker. Okay, and I want to primarily show you actual installation which you are going to do on in your production kind of environments in production, because the version is fixed. That's the first thing. And tomorrow our class timings will be from evening 5 to 7. Tomorrow you don't have a Linux class. Okay, you will not have a Linux class. Fine. So 5 to 7 is the class, is the timing which we have. And this Sunday we are not having class because of Ugadi. So this Sunday we are not having class. Okay. So if some of you people want to go home for some reason, please ask Satish. He would be sending you the links even if you belong to the classroom. Ugadi ఇంటికి వెళ్ళాలి అనుకుంటే just give your names to Satish. అలాగని వారాలు వారాలు ఉండకండి. ఓ 2 రోజులు అయితే నేను మేనేజ్ చేయగలను. Okay, if it is Saturday and Monday, I can manage. Okay, so Saturday and Sunday, if you want links, I can ask Satish to send it. Yes. Hmm. Hmm. If when you do Docker PS, right, it would show you the mapping. It would show you the mapping. And for example, let me show you that Docker PS. So if you see, there is a mapping. 0.0 is your machine. Your machine's 80 port is mapped to 8080. This is being clearly written over here. Hmm. So then you have to give an access as an administrator to this machine. That's it, right? Yeah. So tomorrow class is evening 5 to 7. Okay. And for the AWS, it would be 7 to 9. Yeah. We'll be continuing our PowerShell journey, and basically Sunday will not have a class. All right. Fine. So that's what I had. I think we'll meet tomorrow and let us discuss the installation and some a better deeper dive into Docker. But please play with these commands. Okay, they are fun. You are not going to disturb anything. At a max, what you have to do is Docker RM. అంతకు మించి నష్టం ఏం జరగదు మీ సిస్టమ్. Okay, fine, thanks.